Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Keneal Gale. The government has received an additional 6 cars from O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental Limited. That brings to 36 the total number of cars received of the original 200 procured. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security Diane McIntosh gave an update at this morning's sitting of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriation Committee. Jamila Maitland reports.
Wednesday morning's Public Administration and Appropriation Committee PAAC meeting took an unusual format. The members facilitated an in-camera questioning session with the Ministry of National Security's Permanent Secretary and her team to discuss sensitive matters regarding the controversy surrounding the Ministry's procurement of cars from O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental Limited. The car dealership was contracted by the Ministry of National Security to provide 200 used cars for the Jamaica Constabulary Force last year. But the contractors failed to provide the vehicles after being paid $213 million, half of the total cost. Permanent Secretary in the National Security Ministry, Diane McIntosh, revealed that to date, the ministry has still not received the value for money.
To date also we're able to, in addition to the performance bond that we spoke about, having received the 42 million, I think in January, we've also received from Mayberry 1.8 million.
Opposition spokesperson on national security Fitz Jackson inquired about the performance bond, which he believes should not be included in the monies paid back to the government.
My understanding is that the performance bond has nothing to do with the amount of monies that have been paid. A performance bond, as I understand it, and correct me, is a penalty for failing to perform, because the contracting party would have incurred inconveniences, lack of service, not to mention the hundreds of people who have been murdered because there's no police car to go and respond to their calls. It is those suffering and inconvenience that the performance bond address. It's not part of the money which has been paid.
Mr. Jackson also questioned the relevance of going to mediation, given the fact that the government had already received the performance bond since the company failed to deliver the vehicles.
Is the mediation option activated before failure to perform or subsequent to failure to perform? Because I am of the thought that that is an option that you would choose as against a legal channel. But given that you have already deemed the contractor to have failed and gone as far as collecting the penalty for that failure, which is the performance bond, isn't the mediation really irrelevant at this point?
But Ms. McIntosh said she's guided by the Solicitor General and must follow the steps as outlined in the contract.
According to the contract, this is a multi-stage approach, and we must go through mediation. So it's not really an option. We must go through it. If it doesn't work, then we go to arbitration. So we're following, as we have been, the steps, the course, as we have reported. As a ministry, we are following every possible step, all the steps.
While having taken the other legal action.
Yes, yes.
The Permanent Secretary is expected to give another update to the PAAC at its next sitting. For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, Favour Williams, says the government plans to proceed with Phase 2 reforms to the Pensions Act and the attendant regulations during the 2018-19 fiscal year. She made the announcement while addressing the NCBA Insurance Company Limited Pension Funds Seminar, which was held in New Kingston yesterday. Mrs. Williams said principal among the proposed amendments are portability, which will enable members of an approved superannuation fund or retirement scheme to transfer their benefits to another if they change employers. The Phase 2 reforms will also see vesting after 5 years, wherein a member shall, after the period of time has elapsed, be entitled to benefits based on employers' contributions. There will also be a structured payment arrangement that guarantees a series of fixed or variable payments for the life of the pensioner. Concurrent membership will also be facilitated in both a superannuation fund and retirement scheme or multiple schemes once the total contributions do not exceed the limit prescribed by the Income Tax Act. These, Favour-Williams pointed out, are among the amendments that stakeholders have been lobbying for in order to foster the local pension industry's sustainable development. The minister said the overarching goal of the reforms is to increase the percentage of the employed labour force having a private pension or retirement scheme. The Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, is anticipating further reduction in the country's poverty rate, which declined from 21.1% in 2015 to 17.1% in 2016. The decline reported in Statin's Jamaica Survey of Living Conditions represents a 19% drop in the incidence of poverty, the largest annual reduction in 10 years. PIOJ Director General Dr. Wayne Henry said the projection for even further decline is based on government policies which have accelerated job creation. Statin's labor force survey for January 2018 showed that the number of persons employed increased by 22,600 to 1,206,600. This is despite a decrease in the labor force by 21,200 to 1,335,100 persons. The industries recording the largest increases in employment were the wholesale and retail trade, up 7,900 persons, construction up 7,300 persons, hotels and restaurants up 6,400, and other community, social and personal service activities up 3,900 persons. Meanwhile, Dr. Henry said PIOJ will be examining the multidimensional nature of poverty through the poverty reduction policy launched earlier this year. And when we come back, opposition spokesman raises Petrojam concerns. This and more after the break. Welcome back. Opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Paulwell, is raising concerns about the progress of the upgrade works on Jamaica's oil refinery, the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, Petrojam. He had several questions for the energy minister in Parliament yesterday. Javon Keys tells us more.
I see the closure of Petrojam staring us starkly in the face if something isn't done and done now.
Opposition spokesman on energy Philip Paulwell is expressing these concerns due to the delay in the upgrade work at the National Oil Refinery. Phase 1 of the work includes the installation of a vacuum distillation unit, VDU, which is pivotal to helping Jamaica meet the International Maritime Organization IMO standards. Responding to the concern, Energy Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley admitted that the process has been difficult due to delays which may threaten the 2020 deadline. However, he said the government has put the funds in place to get it done.
I'll admit that the delays over the delays have been costing us, quite a bit of time and money, and we run the risk of not being able to meet the deadline as stipulated by that has been stipulated by the IMO. But we are working feverishly. The money is in place, I must add. The government made an allocation for this year for us to proceed with the VDU project. $100 million US dollars was made available for us to proceed with the VDU project.
Mr. Paulwell also expressed concerns about the fact that in a few years, Petrojam will lose some of its buys of heavy fuel oil and diesel as entities such as JPS and Jamalco switch to more renewable forms of energy such as liquefied natural gas LNG. Minister Wheatley said he understands the concern, but the upgrade will see the refinery producing other products for sale.
The refinery upgrade project is a critical bit of work that needs to be concluded to ensure that we not only secure or safeguard our energy security, but also to be able to maintain the viability of the institution by being able to produce a wide range of products, not only for local consumption, but also for export within the region, such as asphalt.
Mr. Powell is also concerned about the economic impact of a failed project. He said if the project falls through, the almost $20 million in savings being realized now, as well as the greater figure projected, will not be gained.
Today, the economy saves about $150 million due to the operations of Petrojam. If the upgrade and expansion takes place, it will be saving up to $400 million for the economy. But I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the government is not moving with diligence to ensure that Petrojam is preserved to continue to contribute to the economy.
However, Minister Wheatley said he is optimistic that the work will get underway soon so the refinery can remain open.
We are very hopeful that the technical team that is negotiating with the EPC contractor will be able to finalize those discussions for us to proceed, Mr. Speaker. Time is against us, and I do hope that we do not, we are not forced to the state where we will have to take some drastic action as it relates to the refinery still remain open.
For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
Science, Energy and Technology Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley says embracing open data can bring significant economic benefits for Jamaica. He noted that open data is set to impact the gross domestic product (GDP) of countries within the European Union, enabling their economies to see positive results. He said it is estimated that approximately 100,000 jobs will be created within the EU over the next couple of years because of open data. Estimates indicate that over $2.2 billion in savings will be seen in the public administration arena alone due to the increased use of open data. Open data is the idea that some data should be freely available to everyone to use and republish as they wish, without restrictions from copyright, patents, or other mechanisms of control. Dr. Wheatley pointed out that Jamaica has been making strides towards becoming a truly data-driven country. He cited partnerships with the World Bank and the United Kingdom Department for International Development in the creation of an open data readiness assessment, which shows that Jamaica could achieve a successful open data program. He noted further that an open data policy is being finalized for submission to Cabinet shortly. The policy invites stakeholders to partner with government to transform data into tools and applications to create innovations to address challenges faced by citizens. Jamaica also launched an open data portal in June 2016, which enables free and easy access to government information online, making the country the first in the English-speaking Caribbean to have such an innovation. The portal has a full suite of cataloging, publishing, and visualization features that allows government entities, non-profit organizations, and universities to easily publish data to the public. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, J.C. Hutchinson, says the allocation of funds to stakeholders in the agricultural sector should be done with transparency. He was making his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament yesterday. Sashana Small reports.
Minister Hutchinson's assertion comes after State Minister Rudyard Spencer said that Jamaica Labour Party supporters would gain better access to Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA resources, because the chairman is a JLP member. He made that statement in March at a political meeting, but later apologized.
Mr. Speaker, agriculture will now have to take a more serious undertaking by stakeholders. Our farmers will now have to take farming as a business. Funds allocated to the sector have to be distributed in a non-partisan manner where there is accountability and transparency for all inputs.
Minister Hutchinson asserted that there is a need for a more structured agricultural sector and noted that the registration process for farmers with RADA has now been simplified.
And now, an individual has to go to the RADA office, apply to be registered as a farmer, and if he's already cultivating, the extension officer will go and verify the land and have him registered immediately.
He said provisions are being made for persons who just started farming to get registered too.
There are many persons just going into farming and therefore cannot be registered as a farmer because you cannot be identified yet. These persons now would have to prepare the land for planting and have it verified by the extension officer, who would then have that individual registered.
He added that farmers need to be registered to receive resources from their members of parliament.
They would then be eligible to get the inputs from their members of parliament. At this point in time, anyone who is not registered cannot get anything from their member of parliament.
In the meantime, the minister said his ministry is developing a crop loss and farm insurance program for farmers.
We have developed a concept document outlining the mechanism for the budget financing of a crop loss and farm insurance program. No, I didn't. This is just coming now. This is new, brand new. Stakeholder consultation has commenced and second draft will be available soon.
For BATV News, I'm Shoshana Small.
Stay with us. Regional and international stories are up next. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. There are concerns this evening about the adult workforce in Barbados dwindling. More in this report.
There is a need to keep the productive adult population in the workforce longer, says Executive Director of the Technical and Vocational Education Training Council, TVET, Henderson Eastman. However, he says in order for this to take place, it would require the training and retooling of workers through high-skilled technical and vocational training. He argued that Barbados was faced with an aging population and fairly high unemployment levels, which was a recipe for a strain on the country's social security system.
There is the need to keep adults in the productive bracket longer. And how do we do that? We have to retool them in the workforce with skills that are currently in demand. When you get a certain age, sometimes you think that you're no longer needed because you're not relevant. How is this done? It is done through work-based learning. Learning put on with partnership with the training institutions and the employer. Lifelong learning. In fact, this is restructuring the labor force to facilitate demand.
Eastman says there is a need generally for more public and private sector investment in technical and vocational training. This, he says, is necessary to contribute to the country's economic fortunes, increase productivity, and lower the unemployment rate.
Technical and vocational education and training, better known as TVET, must be the master key that can alleviate poverty, conserve the environment, improve the quality of life for all, and help achieve sustainable development.
He said while a lot of work has been done to develop a range of lower-level skills, officials should now concentrate on developing higher-level ones. Eastman was addressing a recent ceremony at the Barbados Manufacturers Exhibition.
At this stage, our TVET system is truncated at the lower level, mostly dealing with skills trade. We need to concentrate on moving our TVET system to the higher level skills. We had the Human Resource Development Strategy, accompanied by the Skills for the Future, as a start, and both of those are about completed. But we have to look for another strategy because all that did was to strengthen our lower level base. We need now to go to the higher level so we can get a workforce that will bring us the things we mentioned above.
Oil workers are now threatening to go on strike as Brazil struggles to cope with a truck driver dispute. The government agreed to lower fuel prices by up to 12%, but truckers are still taking action. The strike has won popular support despite the fact that it has severely hampered the flow of food, fuel, and key exports in Latin America's largest economy. Al Jazeera's David Strelmer reports from Sao Paulo on how people are being affected.
Fuel supplies are now reaching the gas stations, but the return to the normality most people crave is still some way off. Public transport services were reduced, schools closed and domestic flights cancelled. Ivanilda is accustomed to 3 rubbish collections a week, but she's still waiting. Diego Lima, like thousands of others, spent 5 hours in line, only for the pump to run dry just as he reached it. He hasn't worked since last Friday, but supports the truck drivers since he believes high fuel prices hurt everyone.
If I leave now and look for another gas station, I will end up running dry in the middle of the street. I have enough to get home, but I would rather wait here to see if another truck arrives with fuel.
This wholesale market in Sao Paulo on Monday received just 10% of its normal deliveries.
My employees went on vacations. It's just my son and I coming here now to wait for the end of this strike. There's nothing else we can do.
The truck drivers' roadblocks last week stopped 29 million tonnes of fruit and vegetables from reaching markets. The truce is both temporary and fragile, and negotiations are continuing. However, nobody wants to see this kind of inactivity. They say that normality is returning. However, it'll be some days before these warehouses are again filled up, and this street is teeming with trucks unloading fruit and vegetables. Many Brazilians are taking action to avoid what they see as inevitable future petrol shortages by switching their vehicles to compressed natural gas. Cleaner, cheaper and, most importantly, available.
We're full until the end of June. We're at full capacity here. We needed to extend our working hours to convert around 20 cars daily.
While the government has reduced the price of diesel for 60 days, tens of thousands of trucks remain by the roadside. The drivers say the offer is not enough, and while many agree with them, Brazil is bracing itself for more difficulties ahead. Daniel Schweimler, Al Jazeera, Sao Paulo.
Union leaders in Greece fear hundreds of jobs could be lost when the country's biggest public electricity company sells some of its power stations. MPs have already approved the sale, which is a condition of Greece receiving its 3rd bailout from international lenders in August. Here's more.
Megalopoli introduced electricity to southern Greece in 1970. The Public Power Corporation, or PPC, invested hundreds of millions of dollars in a power plant based on exclusive access to cheap lignite coal. But that is about to change. Greece's Eurozone partners and creditors have ordered the corporation to share access to this abundant fuel in the name of fair competition. The PPC is being forced to sell 3 power stations and the lignite mines that feed them. Union leaders fear that will put 1,100 jobs at risk in this town alone.
This power station contributed greatly to Greece's energy security for half a century. Now we're expected to sell it to a privateer in the blink of an eye. They're coming in to buy ready-built plants and mines. That's not development. Development is building new plants, hiring people, creating jobs. This is a sellout.
There's enough coal here to run the power station for another 15 years. That would see most of the present workforce safely into retirement. But under privatization, their jobs are guaranteed for only 6 years. So they're looking at the prospect of unemployment in middle age. But they are partly the victims of their own success. The PPC union has fought liberalization for 2 decades.
The Public Power Corporation built the electricity market and its infrastructure from nothing over the past century. Making money wasn't the point. Investment in the economy was the goal. But under Europe's free market rules, it must now divest itself of its titanic monopoly. It has sold its transmission network, is privatizing 3 profitable power stations, and by the end of next year must lose half its client base.
High carbon dioxide emissions risk putting lignite coal out of action altogether. Last year, this plant paid $13.5 million in emissions fines, and their costs have since nearly tripled. Energy experts say the real value of this sale is not in the existing operation, but the thousands of hectares of land and the operating license that come with it.
So we may well see in a situation where a new owner comes in, operates the lignite power plant a few years, and then decides to dismantle the lignite part of the operation and substitute it with a gas power plant or a photovoltaic one.
That's not a transition workers here support. Renewable energy requires little labour, and if this land is given over to a different use, it likely won't require their skills. John Psaropoulos, Al Jazeera, Megalopoli.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 44 stocks traded today, of which 19 advanced, 20 declined, and 5 traded firm. The main JC index declined by 421 points to close at 295,363 points. The junior index advanced by 43 points to close at 2,946. Over 6 million units traded today, valued at over $64 million on the Jamaican dollar market, while on the US dollar market, more than 2,000 units traded, valued at over $2,333 US. Jetcon Corporation, with over 3 million units changing hands, accounted for 48% of market volume. Supreme Ventures was second with more than 500,000 units trading, and Jamaica Broilers, with almost 450,000 units trading, accounted for 9% of market volume crossing the floor. Caribbean Cream was the top advancer, up 94 cents to close at $5.75, followed by Knutsford Express Services, up $1 to close at $12.50, and 1834 Investments, up 5 cents to close at $1.11. The main decliners were Salada Foods, down $1.89 to close at $14, followed by Separate Group, down $2.62 to close at $31.12, and Stationery and Office Supplies, down 27 cents to close at $8.12. And that's the news this evening, but before we go, a recap of our top story. The government has received an additional 6 cars from O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental Limited. That brings to 36 the total number of cars received of the original 200 procured. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kenil Gale. Pleasant viewing.